Oh, it's been a rough old couple of days, and this is the final one of the evening. Um, Sully, how are you doing, mate? How you keeping? And I've got a lot to ask you, mate, about what's going on in the world of football at the minute. First of all, how are you? That's
Yeah,
the
not
first
too
question.
bad. It just started to snow over here in Colorado, which isn't too unusual for the month of April, but um kind of just like with everything going on, it's not going to stop for a little while. I think we're supposed to get like 6 to 8 inches of snow, so that'll be fun. But
Mm.
yeah, man, I'm doing well. I can't complain. How about
Evening,
yourself?
Kath. Um, yeah, I wasn't happy about Saturday. Obviously, we'll get onto that in a minute. But obviously, what's happened over the last sort of 24 hours in regards to the football
Yeah.
world is it's been hit massively by just greed, basically, in my opinion. And I think it's just ruined. It's literally trying to ruin our beautiful game. Um, what I'll do, I'll get into the game first, then we'll talk about that after. First of all, what did you make of the game with Newcastle on Saturday? It just seems like it's such a long time ago now.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's just a couple of days removed, but it seems like a month ago. I I think last week or the last time we spoke, I was saying that giving up a handful of goals to teams, like Arsenal, Leicester, Wolves, wasn't something to necessarily be overly concerned about because they're pretty decent clubs. They play a very attacking style. Um, but then to give it up to Newcastle, a team that's basically
Mm,
fighting relegation, I think that was worrying. And then I think when you put the last four games into a bigger perspective, we've given up about 10 goals in the last four
mm,
matches. Now, granted, we've scored, you know, obviously more than that by a little bit, but it's that is a little worrying, and obviously, you can't necessarily blame the injuries on that because Declan was in for most of those games. Um, but I think that's our biggest issue right now. Now it's great to see us score goals, obviously, but
mm,
I remember you were saying something like you would have been perfectly fine with a boring, 1-0 win, and
mm.
that would have been great, But I think on one hand, it's good to see the resolve for us to come back and South Gas, for us to come back and find the resolve with 10 men to get 2 goals and even things up.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we have to find a solution. It's good to see Agbana back. I think that'll definitely help.
Mm.
Um, but we just kind of ran out of luck, and I honestly don't see the loss as a bad thing. Which I know I'm overly optimistic, but I don't see the loss as a negative.
Mm.
Um, I think it might have been good for us in a sense, because obviously we're playing good football. We're up high in the table right now. We've been lucky with some results around us. But maybe this was kind of one of those, okay, calm down, reassess. You still have to fight every week. Newcastle is going to be just as big as Chelsea, which is going to be
Mm.
just as big as the next game and the next game, um, so yeah, I don't see it as a bad thing, but hopefully we can learn from it and build on it for sure.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Well, let's get into the game, mate. I thought the first 20 minutes we was horrendous, and we weren't good at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a bit mad. Let's get into it, mate. Craig Dawson, what was he going through? What happened?
Man, I don't know. That's tough to say. It's definitely not something. I feel bad for Craig because he's definitely played well. He's filled a spot that we needed him to fill. Especially when none of us really gave him a chance when we signed him. Um, but the past like month and a half, he's definitely had some pretty bad moments, which have kind of cost us games or kind of gotten teams back into the match. Um, so maybe he just kind of needs some time to appreciate that Peach. Uh, Maybe just needs some time to let let our regular center backs come in and do the thing. Just give him like a game, Let him chill out. Because I think he's still adjusting to, not that he hasn't played in the Premier League before, but I don't think he's been in a position in the Premier League to play where now your team has that target on their back. So maybe he should just sit one out. If he starts against Chelsea, I'm okay with that. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm trying to banish him from the side, but maybe he just needs that game to just kind of reassess and just kind of chill out because he's had a couple rough games.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. The last month for me hasn't been great. Obviously, we go 1-0 down. He gets sent off. We go 1-0 down, and it's not looking too good. And then we go 2-0 down. Fabianski decides to just chuck his ball in the net, and I'll see a lot of criticism on Twitter and social media about people saying about Fabianski, but he's got money in the bank, mate. He's saved us a hell of a lot of times. What was your thoughts on Fabianski, mate, at the weekend?
I don't know if I can necessarily fault him for all three of the goals. Obviously, the one where he dropped it and they kind of just tapped it in, you could put on him, because that should appear, at least to us, that it should be something that he should casually just be able to catch. But obviously the second Craig Dawson yellow card, actually both of his cards, were on him for being in a position for him to get past them so easily, and when it's a one-on-one, most keepers in the world are not going to win that, so I can't necessarily fault him for that. It does suck. He doesn't deserve the criticism, I don't think. Except for, like I said, the one goal that he did drop, but I think the two goals that Dawson kind of ran around from, didn't help anything. And to be fair, even in aspects with Dawson, I think there were some situations you saw where St. Maximin were just kind of, he ran at and around Noble, which put Dawson in the bad spot, and the back line in general. And not to single out Mark Noble, but it was just kind of obvious, especially for the, I think their second goal. I think the second goal. But no, I can't be mad at him, except for, like I said, the one that he fumbled.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think he deserves a bit of respect, and fair enough. He had a bad day at the office, but they all did, in my opinion. Moving into the second half, what was you thinking at half time, Sally?
I was thinking, if we're able to, I expected Newcastle to fully park the bus. You're up a man, you're up 2 goals. Them parking it and just not letting us do anything would have made sense. It's what I probably would have expected us to do in that situation. But it was great to see the team come out with some resolve. It's too bad that it took us going to man down and down 2 goals for us to get that kickstart. But I think for us to be able to fight back, get those 2 goals, kind of take it to, Newcastle. On the American broadcast, the announcer was saying for a little bit that it looked like we had the man advantage, which, to be fair, in some aspects, it did seem like we did. It was good to see, because you could easily throw in the towel. I'm sure there were a bunch of fans that might have tossed in turned the TV off, might have just muted it or whatever, whatever have you at that point. But we made a game of it, and I think you have to commend the team for doing so. So that was good to see, and hopefully, obviously going down 3-2 stung, especially after we just tied it up. But maybe the goal was justified in the sense that I honestly don't think that it was a penalty that should have been given. But at the same time, goals are goals. So it is what it is. Losing the game was probably fair for Newcastle to get the points and for us to drop them. But we just gotta come out with that same intensity, every game, because we need to, especially if, with this whole Super League thing coming out, we'll jump up to second, and we could still easily not make the Champions League, be in the second place. So,
yeah, I know, that's mad, isn't it? Well, let's talk about it quickly. Obviously, Issa Diop scored. Then we get the penalty. We go 2-2. And then we end up losing the game 3-2. What was your final thoughts after the game, Sally?
Regarding Issa or just the game in general?
The game, the manager,
Um,
everything.
I would have liked to see a sub coming out of halftime.
Mm,
That would have allowed us to be more attacking.
mm,
I think in the moment, I would have liked to have seen some form of a back four with Suchek and Fornals and bringing in Lanzini or not Lanzini, Ben Rama for Noble
mm.
and kind of stack it to where you had the lone striker and Bowen and then kind of something to where you had like a 4 3
Yeah.
1, if my math is correct. Something along those lines. But I don't know. And I don't think that his selection to start the game was wrong. I just think the team's intensity and mentality coming out of the gate was wrong, which I don't necessarily put him at fault for. I just
Mm,
think, it was a trap game, for an American term for where, you have a big opponent a week away, you have a not so heavy opponent right now. So you kind of look past them. I think that's honestly exactly what happened is we just look past Newcastle and Newcastle being in the relegation battle that they are, we're up for it. We weren't, and we saw what happened.
I agree, mate. I do agree. Careful, it's 9:30 in the morning, mate. Just to answer your question there.
I will
Let's
say
get.
too on that note, I'm sorry to cut you off, James. The Real Madrid president just came out with a statement on everything, and he said many important clubs in Spain, Italy, and the UK want to find a solution to a very bad financial situation. The only way is to play more competitive games. Instead of playing Champions League, Super League helps the clubs recover lost earnings, which
Mm,
which is hilarious to say because obviously there's been a bunch of pundits,
mm,
former players, even today with James Milner, giving their 2 cents on it, and it's definitely very much slap in the face ish for him to say to help the clubs recover the lost earnings because there's only 12 clubs that will be recovering lost earnings.
mm.
Which is crazy because it's like those are the 12 teams that don't need to necessarily recover lost earnings. You still have them buying players. You still have them, deep in different tournaments, respectively, in their domestic leagues and obviously in the
Yeah.
European leagues. Um, so I
Well,
think, go ahead.
I think we will get to just the European Super League.
Yeah,
And I'll go through it with you a bit more. But before we do,
yeah.
I just want to go for a ratings with you. Just give me a quick, just if you want to quickly just give us numbers, and we'll go like that. I just want to get your thoughts on, like, 'cause I like doing this. I like player ratings, and I like to see what people's opinions are on the team in a whole. What would and we'll start off with Fabianski, mate. What would you give Fabianski out of 10?
um, man, that one's tough. I would have to give him. I'll give him a 7 because I do think that one of the goals was definitely on him, but I don't fault
Mm,
him for the other two that we gave up. The Diop own goal was obviously a Diop own goal. Um,
mm,
yeah, no halves today, Scott, for sure. Which I think was mainly a foul up on Diop.
mm.
I definitely. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there was much that he could have done outside of what he did do for us. So I'll give him a 7.
7. Kufel.
Um, Kufal played fine. I think I think it's kind of starting to show that some players with pace can go at him and take him on.
Mm,
And kind of get their way with him. Um, so I want to give him a 7 as well.
mm,
I don't remember a whole bunch of the game. because it was like 5:30 in the morning for me, so I was kind of half awake watching it in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he didn't. I don't think he was at fault for anything. And please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong and forgetting something. But yeah, I'll give him a 7 as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sally. I thought he was the best defender for us. I thought he was brilliant. I really did. I'll go Ben Johnson next one, mate. The other side.
I'll give him a 6 just because I don't think he really had too much impact on the game. Yeah, nice to see him get a run out. Obviously, I think he's playing in a spot that isn't suited to his talents because he's playing where his wrong foot is. It has to be his strong foot. But he didn't really impact it. I don't think he really, either way. So I'll give him a 6. But yeah, good to see him start, but he didn't really have an effect on it for me.
Angelo Ogbonna.
I respect him a lot for coming back in and playing as much as he did in a role straight from injury to where he had to take up a lot of the field. I think it was kind of unfair to go into a back three right away with him coming back from injury. I think it might have been, well on the manager to put him in a back four to where he could have some cover. Because I think on Newcastle's counterattack definitely killed us, and it was in the center of the field the entire time. So I'll give him a 7 as well. But at the same time, I don't know if a lot of that was due to him just being out of position or him, coming back from injury and having a lot of space to cover. But I'll give him a 7.
Issa Diop scored a goal, got an own goal.
I'll give him a 5. I think Issa Diop. The one thing that's crazy for me about him is he's so tall, but he can't jump. I feel like corners, if you see a lot of times where the corner is behind him and he doesn't jump up nearly high enough to get the ball, which, he doesn't need to jump that high. Just get up and just, do something. But he just kind of, and it gets past him. The goal was a howler. Props to him for getting it back. He did his job in recovering that goal for us. Almost had one last week. So, I think he's in a bit of good form to the respect of goal scoring. But I'll have to give him a 5 just because I think this wasn't his best game.
This man, Craig Dawson.
I got to give him a 4. Very poor game for him, which is unfortunate. I don't like to speak negatively of the players, but, I guess as a fan, it's our right to do so. Both of the cards were due to him not being able to cope with the speed of somebody coming at him, which I think on one hand, is a fault of his just not necessarily being that athletic, but at the same time is a fault of our recruitment for not being able to bring in somebody who can play that position. But if we're playing a back three and he's on the left, which is what I'm looking at right now for the team sheet, I don't think he's used to, again, having that much space to have to handle. But then again, most of the time he was in the center of the park when these issues happened. So, so whether he was caught out of position or what the case may be, this was just not a good game for him at all. So I'll give him a 4.
Mark Noble, mate.
Mark Noble, I'll have to give a 6 because I think that he was kind of caught in a black hole a handful of times. To where pace, he obviously, isn't able to handle it. And it's interesting too, because I was watching the game and I was thinking the same thing for Noble, but it's funny because the first time we played him, we had the same issues, and Rice was playing. We couldn't handle St. Maximin, which is really unfortunate, because he's honestly the one team, him and Shelby are like the two players that for whatever reason we just can't stop. Shelby, I'm surprised he honestly didn't score against us this time because he normally always does. But St. Maximin and his speed, all he does is just go forward. I don't think it's we can shut down players like Grealish, but we let St. Maximin, mess around and be messy against us, and I don't get it. But yeah, Mark Noble was kind of in a black hole for me. He got caught out, outran offensively. Again, in the comments, let me know if I'm getting it wrong, but I don't think he offered too much going forward either. So yeah, kind of poor game for him as well.
Thomas Souček.
Souček, to be honest, and this might have just been my sleepy brain, I don't remember too much of him being involved in the match either. I don't know if that's necessarily just because he had to kind of cover for Noble a lot, or if they purposely just didn't go to him, which would be smart on their part. But I think with Newcastle's counter, and especially with as forward as Thomas Souček plays, that also might have been a reason to where we were kind of exposed in the back, is Souček was just so far, which isn't a negative because he's great attacking wise. But just for whatever reason, I don't remember too much of him in the game. So yeah, I don't even remember the number I just gave him, but whatever I did, that's what I'll stick with.
I don't think you give him a rating.
No, I'll give him a 7, just because I honestly, and it's my fault, but I don't remember too much of him in the match.
That's fine. I agree with you. He won at his best, I must admit. Pablo Fornals.
I think Fornals, that was tough too. I think honestly the whole attacking three, I'll give them all 7s, just because I think they were a big part of the comeback. Obviously, Lingard got the penalty. And I think, they were kind of a big reason as to why we were able to kind of manhandle Newcastle in the second half, especially being down, because I think they were able to play a little bit more freely. And, I think they're making a solid connection, the three of them. I would have loved to see this be a game where Benrahma had a chance to go out there, because I think his pace would have helped us going forward. But I understand the reason why we went with the way that we did, just because of Newcastle's speed. And obviously, a team like Newcastle is always counterattacking. So you have to be able to prevent that. But yeah, for the final 3, I'll give them all 7s, just because I think the first half was shocking pretty much for all of them. Didn't really do much going forward, but the second half they were bringing us back into it. So, so I'll probably give Bowen a 6, actually, just because I don't think he did too much in the match.
Well,
but he's the
next man I'm going to get to now, Jared Bowen.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. He's another player that I don't really remember too much going on with him in this match.
He got an assist, didn't he? He crossed the ball in for Diop.
Okay.
Yeah, so he got an assist. Didn't really do anything in the first half, if I'm honest. Second half, he was running around. He was trying, so you can say that. But
yeah, I'll definitely have to do a better job this next week of kind of like keeping some notes. So, because I apologize for kind of having my memory blurred for the game, especially with it being so early for us. But yeah, I get that, props in for the assist, especially for a defender to get on it. Which is funny because I was definitely just, talking about how Diop can't jump, or he can get up for a header when he's about to score, but he can't prevent him on the other side.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Finally, I won't make the subs. I'll leave the subs this week. But finally, Jesse Lingard. What did you give him?
Yeah, good penalty. Blasted it in there. Love to see it. He's on good form. I think that's his 9th or his 8th.
9th.
I don't remember. 9th? Okay, so and there's a handful of games he's already, tied for top goals for us. So I think But yeah, like I said, I'll still give him a 7. First half he didn't really have much involvement. Which you could say for a lot of the team. But second half, I think obviously him taking the penalty shot and tying up the game, that was huge for us. Even though we gave up the lead right back right after, but I'll give him a 7. Better second half than the first half, but it's not like that was hard to do.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. And finally, for the ratings, and then we're going to get on to a little chat about the European Super League. David Moyes.
I'll give him a 6. And I'll give him a 6 because, like I said, I would have loved to see a substitution at halftime, especially after going down a man. I think that he shouldn't have had Agbana covering so much space coming right back from injury. He needs to play Ben Johnson on the side that complements his stronger foot. And his substitutions came pretty late too. I think his first sub wasn't until the 75th minute, which is like 40 minutes after the red card happened, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Newcastle, their first sub was in the 64th minute. So, he's been pretty bad with subs all season for the most part. I think maybe, I don't know. And I think one thing that he could look at doing if they're playing this kind of system again, possibly just to see what happens, put Ben Johnson where Mark Noble was, and possibly have Fredericks playing the wing, because I think that would fit Fredericks going forward. He can help cover whoever's behind him. I know injuries kind of put Dawson in an awkward spot, but until Cresswell comes back, who even himself needs cover, I think we have to play somebody who can kind of fit that Massa Walker role. So, a 6.
6. That's fair enough, Sully. That's fair enough. Now we're going to get on to the European Super League, which I want to get your opinion, Sully. What's been the reaction in America on all this that's going on?
Yeah, from what I've seen on Twitter from American fans, from Chelsea, the 6 clubs who are in the Super League, they're pretty disappointed, and I think a lot of it has to do with half the teams that are in the Super League in Europe or from England have American owners, and I think, I don't know how much of the involvement was on their part to try to get this started, because apparently this has been in the talks since about 2018. But, I know that this is definitely something that has, like American greed kind of written all over it, which is very unfortunate, to kind of go into another country, at the flag behind me, the West Ham history of the badge flag. Very first one, 1895, obviously we got the 125-year crest on the badge this year. That's a lot of history. That's a lot of families going to football. That's a lot of, dads taking their sons. That's a lot of, just, happy moments in general, going to these matches, whether it be at the London Stadium, the Boleyn, wherever, the history of West Ham have played. And for it to happen, I think a lot of American fans are just like, it's a slap in the face to everybody who has been growing up going to these matches, and especially, I think we, at least from what I've seen, a lot of Americans feel bad as well, because it seems as if it's something that, like we're obviously used to greed, and, we have our own traditions with our own sports teams out here, but unless you're talking baseball, we don't have teams that have been around for hundreds of years, and even in baseball, you kind of only have a handful that have gone back that far. So I think a lot of it is just, there's anger, there's frustration, there's an obvious eye to greed in this, because, especially with that statement that I was just reading, it's like, they want to act like they're the only teams who have lost money. There have been teams who
Yeah.
have completely shut down due to this, and for the rich just to get richer, is completely disrespectful to the game of football. And
In in your opinion, Sally, do you
mhm.
think it will happen?
I don't. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say actually because I think the three teams that haven't been named are PSG and the two German teams,
Mm,
Borussia and Bayern. And I think they haven't been named yet because I don't think they. I think they wanted to see what the reaction was, but at the same
mm,
time, everybody knows that it's going to be them. I saw a picture of, like I said, a leaked document from 2018 that also had Olympicos and Roma in there.
mm,
Um, but I think it's interesting because when you look at all these leagues that have these teams in them, the only one that has genuine top to bottom competition is the Premier League, the
mm,
European or British Premier League. You know, Bayern runs Germany. They take all of Borussia's best players. France is just one team. I know you have Lyon in there from time to
mm.
time. Marseille, kind of tosses their hat in the ring, and Monaco won it a couple of years ago. But the big clubs buy all the best players. There's not enough revenue share throughout the league for everybody to make those leagues competitive. Um, you know, uh, I think for those clubs, that's why it probably will happen, is because those clubs they generally don't have competition. Like them losing a game to some mid-table team is a huge thing because it just shouldn't happen. To whereas obviously as we've seen and known in the Premier League, you can't take any weekends off or else you're going to get caught. You
Yeah.
know, um, Injuries will bite you, but nobody's going to feel sorry for you for having injuries. Because I mean, if you look at Liverpool, all the injuries they have, and if they won today, they would have been fourth place. So obviously
Mm,
you get injuries, you have to overcome them because no one's going to feel bad for you. But I think right there, you know, we just have something that the other leagues don't. But I think that it's going to happen because those other leagues don't have that top to bottom competition. Spain is the three teams that are in here, and it's always a fight for fourth place. With your Valencias, your Sevillas, your athletic clubs, all that stuff. And yeah, so I mean, it probably will happen for that reason, but I think the backlash, I think just as much backlash as you still have those fans, whether in America or abroad, who are like, I don't care for the little teams crying kind of stuff. They want to see it
yeah.
because to them it's just a commercial thing. Like why wouldn't, if you're a fan of Atletico Madrid, why wouldn't you want to go up against Cristiano Ronaldo again? Why wouldn't you want to go up against Bayern? Kind of stuff.
Mm.
But
Um, like Joe, like the American model, like the way Americans brand sports, it's like a franchise, isn't it? Is
yeah,
that what you see that they're trying to do with our top six, turn them into a franchise rather than a club, like a football club, like so to speak?
um, I don't know if it's necessarily the clubs turning into franchises because, to be fair, they kind of already are franchises. But I think it's
Mm,
more so of, I think the league model is changing because in American sports, at any level, you don't have promotion and relegation, right? Even in our
yeah.
in our uh, in our Major League Soccer, there's no promotion or relegation. They just keep adding new teams every year.
Mm.
Um,
How do you, like, before you answer, but how do you find that? Like, because with me, I've grown up with relegation and promotion, and that's the
yeah,
joy, like the joy of surviving and the joy of like getting promoted, like
yeah.
into the next level. Like, there's got to be some sort of levels to the game, isn't there? Um, what do you think on that when it comes to promotion, especially watching West Ham for the last 8 years?
Well, kind of like how you were growing up with relegation, I didn't really know that it was a thing until about 8 years ago. Um,
Mm,
so I think I do. I love it. I love the fact that it puts pressure on the people at the bottom as well as the people who are in the next league coming up. I think it always leads to good conversation, good competition. But I think in the U.S., the structure, like the league infrastructure, just hasn't been there to do it. You have a lot of cities here who love football, but I think here it's
Mm,
all market based. Like obviously, England is a very small country, and the whole country loves this particular sport. To
mm,
where you can have a team in Brentford, pack a stadium every week, just like how you have, your Manchester clubs, right? But in the
mm,
United States, your Manchester clubs play in New York City, to where they are one of the bigger markets. You have your Arsenals, which could be like Los Angeles. And then you have, like, here in Colorado, I could probably compare us to like an Aston Villa, right? Like we have a great history, we have championships, but we're not in
mm,
a huge market. Now Villa is a big club, but just they don't have a lot of recent history to put them in a position to be like a big six, right? Even though I think they probably should be, because, obviously Villa, they have great history in Europe and in the Premier League, and the top division in general. But I think for here, it's so ran on markets that you can't have a lot of promotion and relegation, because I think if you try to do that in the US, unless it was specifically for the Major League Soccer, it just wouldn't work.
mm.
There's not
Yeah.
enough money to go. Well, I shouldn't say there's not enough money to go around, but when you break it down into markets, there's not enough money to go around. Because um, let's say with American football, right? Obviously, the one sport that gets the biggest attraction here.
Mm,
You play this season, they're going to start a new 17-week league, right? Where you have 17 regular season games, which is about what, half of your Premier League season. And I think, what's up, Peach? And I think that you can't do longer than that because there's way too many injuries, right? It's too physical, it's dangerous, all that stuff. So I think, um, I don't know. I don't think it'll ever happen. It won't happen here. But I think
mm.
it's just because it's just not infrastructurally set up to have it happen.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I really do. Peach, how you doing, sir?
Yo, how are you, my G? How are you? You doing good, man?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Sully,
Just
Sully. I done seen you on the American Hammers taking the world over, dog. It's a pleasure to meet you, my G.
Yeah, you too, man. Nice to see you in person. Nice to meet you.
Don't
yeah,
know, man. So
Peach is a good
sorry,
lad.
sorry.
He's a good lad.
So this guy's the best man in the world. Calling me a good lad. Heathway. Let me ask you something, dog. Let me ask you something. My dad used to go to a pub called the Fiddlers, and it was like a Wood Lane,
Oh yeah,
and you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. I know Wood Lane. I know the Fiddlers. I bet it's
My
the
dad, my, my, my,
some.
my, my, my my dad grew up on Wood Lane, dog, and he used to go to the
Yeah,
Fiddlers like all the time, dog. But I don't think it's there no more.
nah. I think it used to be called the Ship and Anchor. The pub.
There you go.
Ask your dad if it was the Ship and Anchor at the Fiddlers, and if it or it's either the Free Travellers or the Ship and
Yeah,
Anchor. It's
yeah.
one of the two. Yeah,
Because
and yeah.
I was talking to my dad the other day about you and just saying how like you were like Dagenham, and then I was like, is that like Heathway, flipping the airport
Mm.
things. I was like, is Heathway like before Dagenham or after? He's like, it's after Dagenham. I was like, oh, okay, so yeah. And then he like schooled me on two things, man. But big up your
Mm.
blood class out, dog. How you mean?
Yeah, yeah, I know, mate. Obviously, Peach, I'm going to ask you,
Yeah,
mate. Then I'm going
yeah.
to
What's up?
just ask you a few things.
Yeah.
Obviously, what have you made of all this? What's been going on over here in
Oh,
England with this?
it's malarkey, man. It's malarkey. It's like I heard Sally,
You're
sorry.
good. No worries.
Um, um, I heard Sally make a very good point about comparing it to like the NFL, and
Mm,
it's nuts because like I respect America. I'm like your next door neighbor. Like I'm in Toronto, Ontario, and you got the Major League Baseball, you got the MLS, you got the NFL, and they're competitions, and they're good competitions, but there's no pressure. Like the more pressure you apply, you make diamonds, and there's no diamond league in Toronto or Canada for that matter, as well as America for that matter. Like no team suffers if they play the most garbage that they've played all season and get relegated, or if they play the best of all seasons and get promoted. There's none of that, and that's what that's what the FA.
The thing that's crazy with that too is like if you
go on.
Go, Sally.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say that the thing that's crazy about that is you actually get rewarded for playing bad, because we have the draft picks and you get the number one pick. If you have the worst season of anybody else with the worst record, you get the best pick to try to help your team become better. So you kind of get rewarded for it, to where even, you know, fans, there's a phrase called tanking, to where you try to lose on purpose so that you can get that top pick. You know, so I think like Heisman Trophy type things and like number one draft type things. Word up. But it's like that there's nothing in the world. There's nothing in the world like if you play, excuse my language, but if you play like shit, you're getting thrown into a different division that ain't gonna make you the money that you were making before. But if you play good, you'll get promoted to a league that will give you more money and will give you more viewers and will give you
what it is,
more of a bit of everything.
What it is, it seems like there's no incentive. There's no incentive to do well. Like, it seems like that you just go into something, and it's like us three playing bowling, for instance, and there's no promotion, there's no relegation. It's just we're just three lads having a game of bowling. Do you know what I mean? So
that's it.
It just makes no sense. Obviously, it's a sad day for football over here. It's sad.
It's a very sad day for football. I think the one positive, and I never ever thought I'd say this, boys, but the one positive was Jose Mourinho got sacked today. But did he get sacked? Did he leave because he wasn't about the Super Six, or did he get sacked? Because I cannot see Mr. Allen wannabe Donald Trump sugar sacking him before the final. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. I think he walked. And I think Jose Mourinho is a what's it. And I'm not talking about the Chris dog. I think he's a what's it. And it's like, you know what? If he did walk away, kudos to him, man. Kudos to him, man. Like,
I agree too with you on that too, Peach, because Jose Mourinho's been a manager who's never been fired before. You know, he's always walked away. So for him, like you just said, the week before a final that he helped you get to, and you fire him, there's it, especially right after this announcement, it doesn't add up. You know, I think he's definitely a manager of the fans. Like, he loves the fans. I think he loves that aspect of it. And I think on the flip side of that, like, he loves being that manager that fans hate. You know, so I think it's way too convenient timing for him to be fired, especially when he got you to a League Cup final. Like, I don't remember the last time like Tottenham got some silverware, but you don't fire a manager who's about to potentially get you a trophy.
No, not at all. I
agree. Yeah. Peach,
what's up, man?
Where do you see this going now?
Oh, I see it. I see it. You know when you go to the toilet and like you plug it up because you either use too much toilet paper or like you just had too much like chicken tikka masala to eat, and it's like it comes back up. I see it going down, but I see it coming back up. Like, I can see players crawling back to their clubs being like, "Oh, please take me back. Please take me back. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that." And I can see that, but I don't know, because the big thing is going to be tomorrow, man. Like, Sullivan and Gold and Brady. Oh, bless her soul, stupid lady. But Brady, like, you got them going to the thing tomorrow, and are they going to make up for the Burnley? Are they gonna make up for the Burnley now and like hold strong and be like, yo, we're like we're
What do
gonna
you
be
think,
this guy. Go on.
Peach? What
Sorry,
do you,
I'm
what
going
do
off.
what do you think they will do tomorrow?
What I hope they do, James, I hope that they expunge the 6 clubs that have agreed to go into this ordeal, letter of intent. I hope that they punish them. I hope that they punish them. That's what I hope, and I hope that the other, what would it be? 14 teams.
Yeah.
That's it, Sully. I hope that the other 14 teams stand strong. And I know, like, everybody's saying, oh, West Ham can win the league and da-da-da-da-da. I don't want to win the league without the top I don't want to win the league without the top clubs in it. If we do, great, but it's not going to be the same. And if we do get into Champions League, we're not going to be going to Barcelona no more. We're not going to be going to Real Madrid no more. But if tomorrow goes on like I hope it does, it will be the 14 teams standing strong and not budging and punishing the 6 that kind of threw their hat in the ring, man. Straight up.
Yeah.
Then one thing to keep an eye on for that too as well, because I'm sure it'll happen, while we're asleep over here, Peach. But
yeah.
I think the Premier League has to come out with their statement before the Super League comes out with their statement, because they're both coming out with stuff tomorrow. So you can't be inconvenient in letting the Super League come out and dictate what the playing field is, and then you're like, oh well, boo on those guys, because the Super League could come out like, oh well, we're not going to start it until 2022 or some shit. You have to come out first and be like, no, F these guys, we don't want them no more. We're not playing any more games against them. We're going to take all their points, whatever the case may be. You have to bring the hammer down beforehand and put pressure on those clubs to be like, hey, we can't do this anymore. Because I think the one thing, honestly, that's going to happen for the players, because I think the players of these clubs honestly didn't have any say in it. The World Cup football aspect of it is what I think is going to push a lot of players either to fight this with their own club or leave clubs if it does go through. Because look at, for example, the U.S., right? This is probably the most talent the U.S. men's national team has probably ever had. And they all play for teams that are in the Super League. So there's if that goes through, that's the U.S. men's football done, finished. I mean, we weren't good to begin with, but that's us done. That's
you still got some good talent, though. You still got
they got magic talent, man. Amorian or whatever for Newcastle, he's banging, dog. How do you mean? It's like
who's the bloke? Who's the lad who plays for Juventus? I can't think his name.
McKennie. Yeah.
McKennie. Yeah. He's a good player.
Bad man.
Yeah. And they got some good players over there. It's just, what I want to see is common sense, and I want them to say, you know what? I've had a message come through from someone who's on here, Caffel, and Caffel said to me, he said, basically they've signed the contract and it's legal and binding, and basically that they can't get out of it, right? Because they've signed the contract. It's like one of them ones. The only thing they can do, which I spoke to someone earlier about, is basically show it's unsustainable. But then that goes down the road, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like they like to Sully and James. Doc. It's like they've put the motion going forward. So it's like, imagine you're chilling in like Hawaii or something, and then there's a tsunami, but it stops. And it's like, so it's decision time. Do we do it? Do we don't? Do we do it? Do we don't? And either the tsunami goes away or the tsunami continues to like take over everything. I think that's like the position we're in right now. And they've already put the letter of intent in. So the tsunami is coming. The tsunami is coming, man. It's like they have to reap what they sow. They made their bed, now lay in the blood clot thing, man, because it's like they can't have their cake and eat it too, man. It's no Marion Antoinette things, dog.
Now let me ask you this, and I'm going to wrap it up, lads. But if them top 6 do go, and there is no return for them for them top six, and I'll ask Sully first, and I'll leave the last word with Peach.
Okay, thank you.
What game, Sully, will you miss the most out of the top six?
Probably the two London derbies, honestly, because I think those games right there is where you have a lot of your biggest competition, right? I mean, those are, I'm sure, you grew up with friends who are Arsenal, friends who are Tottenham, and obviously you're going to have, Manchester friends, stuff like that. But living where you are in the middle of London, it's easy to grow up with people who follow them teams, So obviously growing up, you like to poke fun. You might have even gone to a match with them or whatever, what have you, went to pubs, whatever. I think those ones would be the ones to miss the most because you love beating up on your brothers, if that makes sense. I think as much as I love to beat the Manchesters, I love to beat the London clubs more. Chelsea, Spurs, and to be fair, if they do leave, I mean, who's our London competition now? Fulham, okay, Palace, right. Yeah,
Terrible,
so
mate.
it's just not going to be the same, and those games are.
Let's bring Millwall back in the mix, dog. Let's bring he said, "Look at Sully." No, but I'm just saying,
even them,
it's like bring them back in the mix, dog. Like, forget Liverpool, we got Millwall. How you mean? Straight up, man.
And Peach, I'm going to ask you, mate. If them top six go, which ones will you miss the most? Them games? What games will you miss the most?
I will miss 1. I will miss 2. I will miss 3. I will miss 4. I will miss 5. I will miss 6. Because I know you got London derbies, this, that, and the third. Ray, ta. But I'm showing you, dog, I love beating Liverpool. I'll show you what Liverpool are doing right now, dog. With this whole Super League thing, Never Walk Alone. That is the most fraud song in the world if they're going to go into the Super League, dog. Straight up, Never Walk Alone. You're walking alone for the ducats. They're walking alone for the blood clot ducats, dog. So, I want to beat Man City. I want to beat Man United. I want to beat Liverpool. But if they go, I want to see some next clubs come up into the league, man. And I know last night I was on some British Premier League. Yeah, we could get into that, but we could keep it English too, man. And invite Bristol City, Doncaster, Bury, like you done said. You know what I mean? Man, straight up, man. I'm just beating all of them.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Honestly, there is a lot of sleeping giants, especially in the Championship. There's Nottingham Forest comes to mind.
For sure.
Nottingham Forest are a big club.
That's the toughest league to get out of. You done seen what happened to Portsmouth. You done seen what happened to Sunderland, man.
Look how long it took Leeds to get out of that league.
Boom, Sully. Boom, Sully.
And that's the thing. That's the thing for me. Before I wrap it up, I'm going to miss Tottenham, obviously. I will miss Arsenal because I lived in North London and I've got a lot of Arsenal friends. But one of the games that I will miss, and you might feel I'm going to be mad, is the Man United. We've had some.
Word up.
In 95 or 96, we stopped them from winning the league. 2007, we won there and stayed up.
Right. Tevez went when we were on relegation things and Tevez scored. Come on, man. That was beautiful.
The Payet free kick.
Free kick.
Sully, shut up. Sully, shut up. Go to sleep, Sully. Go to sleep, Sully. Come on. Wasn't that so beautiful? Yeah. Wasn't that so beautiful, man?
No, I mean, you're definitely not wrong. And especially in the time that I've been a fan, especially the United away matches have been some pretty great matches to watch. I think this was 2013. We had a 2-2 draw there, which should have been a game that we won, but I think United got gifted a penalty late. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. And obviously, we beat them a handful of times at home, which is fantastic.
And I'm going to say this to you, right? The final game at the Boleyn was against Manchester United.
Yeah.
Winston motherfucking Reed, dog. How do you mean, man? And you know what? I'll show you this. I know the Super Six makes greedy Bears look like greedy Teddy Rupkin, Teddy Rupkin, whatever, however you say his name, dog. Or the movie with Mark Wahlberg in it, that Teddy, dog. But I'm just showing you, they're greedy bears, dog. And I'll show you, like, they can do their thing. It's going to be the most boring league in the world. It might benefit West Ham. And West Ham is massive, is Andy Miles, 100 miles a run, always says. West Ham is massive, and, like, this might be, like, a blessing in disguise. It might be a blessing in disguise. Let them go have the gold. We'll have the silver, and we'll win all the trophies, and it'll be West Ham's league from, like, now to, like, next year to next year to next year to next year. Let's have it, man. Let's have it, man.
It is definitely interesting on social media seeing how many fans have switched allegiances to become West Ham fans. I will say that's a pretty cool thing to see as well.
Hey, yo,
Listen,
Sully,
mate.
Sully, let me ask you, dog. Why do you support West Ham, my friend?
So I wasn't always a West Ham fan. To give you a real quick story, when I first got into football, I used to follow Manchester United, but that was before I realized who they were, what they had done in the past, and who their players were. I was stationed in England for 2 years from 2012 to 14. And my buddy Gary, who was in the chat earlier, he took me to.
Why were you stationed there, like school or like army type things?
I was in the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force.
Oh, we could beat yourself up. Thank you for your services, my G.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, no, we were there. I went to a game, August 2013. Yep. Had the whole experience. Went to go eat right outside the stadium. Went to the bowl-in. Got my drink on. Went to the match once the gates opened. Saw the stadium fill. Saw the bubble. Sang it. Got goosebumps. The game of football itself was actually pretty dog shit, but the whole experience was just fantastic. And just from that day on. That day on, switched allegiances. I told my buddy, I was like, I'm Manchester United no more. I'm West Ham till I die from this day moving on.
It makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, dog.
Every time, man. Every time.
Man. Yo, I love that. That's beautiful, Sally. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I do agree. I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, I know. But I'm going to have to wrap it up, lads. Yeah, because it's nearly my bed. It's my bedtime, and I'm wrecked. But you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure, Sully. Thanks again for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. It's always good to have you on, and always welcome to come on, mate. Anytime you like, and I'll get you on again soon. Peach,
always a pleasure,
mate.
My friend.
Yeah,
always a pleasure, man.
I'll get you on again next week, Peach, because I love your energy, mate, and I wish I had your energy, but I'm just knackered. Do you know what I mean?
I love your knowledge. I love your knowledge, dog. I love Sully's outlook. Like, we all compliment one another in different ways, man. Straight up, man.
Yeah. And I just want to thank everyone, the couple of people who's been watching tonight. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to let you boys go. I'll catch up again with you again soon, and take it easy, be safe. And we will see what happens in the next few days regarding the European Super League.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Let's have Chelsea. Piss on it all. Let's have Chelsea, dog. Let's do them in, man. Straight up, man.
That's right.